You think she's crying because you hurt her. Ninth, you think maybe you did something wrong, but what if I told you that her tears have nothing to do with pain, and everything to do with something deeper that most men will never understand? Not strength. See, there's a side to a woman's mind that isn't loud, it doesn't scream, it doesn't explain, it feels. Not strength. And if you ever learn to read that silence, to understand why she goes quiet after the most intense moments, then you'll unlock a level of connection that no money, no game, no technique could ever give you. Because when a woman cries after sex, she's not just reacting to the act, she's reacting to the depth, the presence, strength, the part of you that touched her soul, not just her body. But here's the truth most men don't get. That kind of reaction can't be faked, forced, or fabricated. Strength, it's something you have to earn. And once you get it, you'll never go back to shallow again. When a woman shares her body with a man, especially in moments of intimacy, she often opens a door to parts of herself that even she doesn't fully understand. For many women, sex is not just a physical act. It's an emotional experience, a deeply layered event that activates memories, sensations, and subconscious emotions stored over years. Emotional vulnerability can surface not because of what's happening in that moment, but because of everything that moment represents. When a woman feels safe, seen, not strength, and accepted, her defenses lower, her mask comes off, and what's left is raw feeling, unfiltered, unguarded, and real. These emotions don't always show up as laughter or pleasure. Sometimes they emerge as tears, not because she regrets what happened, but because her nervous system is finally allowed to relax. She's not just shedding clothes, she's shedding pressure. Pressure to be perfect. Pressure to protect herself. Pressure to perform. The kind of intimacy that allows her to cry after sex is a signal that something inside her was reached. Something tender, something unspoken, something sacred. It may be the first time in a long time that she felt like she didn't need to pretend. No games, no roles. Just her, in her fullness, not strength. And when that kind of space is created, it doesn't just make her feel good, it heals her. A woman might carry burdens silently, not strength, move through the world with a smile while battling chaos inside, and then in a single intimate moment, everything unravels. She might not even be able to explain why she's crying, because tears often speak a language our words can't. What matters is that the emotional container was deep enough, stable enough, and present enough to hold her without judgment. That's what triggers true vulnerability. Not sex itself, but the feeling of being emotionally held. Many men misunderstand this. They assume something is wrong, or worse, take it personally. But if a woman cries after sex, it's often because something finally felt right. Her emotions aren't a sign of weakness. They're a sign of depth. They mean she let her guard down. Something she might not do for just anyone. Not strength. Emotional vulnerability isn't weakness, it's evidence that the connection went deeper than skin. It hit something buried, something honest. Not strength. Maybe it reminded her of being loved. Maybe it reminded her of being abandoned. Or maybe it reminded her of the woman she's been hiding all along. In this space, her body isn't just a physical presence. It's a gateway to her emotional landscape. And if you were able to unlock that space, even unintentionally, not strength, you've stepped into a realm where most men never go. You've touched her mind, her memory, her soul. And those places echo louder than anything physical ever could. When she cries, it doesn't always mean something is broken. Sometimes it means something is being repaired. Emotions that have been locked away get permission to surface. The armor cracks, the wall comes down. A woman's tears after sex often leave men confused, unsure whether they've done something wrong or accidentally hurt her. But what most men fail to understand is that tears can be a reflection of trust, emotional release, or even unresolved trauma. The female mind stores experiences not just as memories, but as emotions that live in the body. And when she engages in physical intimacy, especially with someone she feels connected to, those stored emotions can rise to the surface unexpectedly. It's not something she plans or even fully understands in the moment. The body speaks before the mind can translate. For some women, crying after sex is a kind of emotional detox, a release of years of suppressed feelings. That moment of vulnerability becomes a portal through which everything she's buried is allowed to flow. Sometimes it's sadness. Sometimes it's relief. Sometimes it's the ache of past pain finally given space to breathe. And sometimes it's all of it at once. These tears aren't always about the man she's with. They may be echoes from relationships where she was used, betrayed, or ignored. Or they might be tied to childhood wounds that resurface when she feels safe enough to feel again. Trust plays a major role in this reaction. A woman may not even realize how much she's been holding in until someone makes her feel safe enough to let go. And that safety doesn't just come from words, it comes from presence, from the way he touches her without demand, from the way he looks at her with reverence, not ownership, from the silence he holds when she's not okay instead of trying to fix her. All of these subtle behaviors tell her that it's okay to surrender, not just her body, but her guard, her pain, her truth. But not all tears are rooted in comfort. Some are the body's way of processing unspoken trauma. She might be reliving moments where she felt powerless, objectified, or abandoned. Intimacy can trigger those memories without warning, especially if they were never fully processed. In these moments, the man's response becomes critical. If he meets her emotions with confusion, shame, or impatience, she may shut down even further. But if he simply holds space, quietly, without needing to understand everything, he becomes part of her healing, not another scar. This kind of emotional release is rarely logical. It doesn't follow the patterns of casual sex or surface-level connection. It happens when something deeper is touched, something sacred, ancient, and deeply personal. Her tears might be a thank you her mouth can't say, or a cry for safety she's never been granted before. They might be grief for a version of herself she lost trying to please everyone else. Or they might be joy, quiet, overwhelming joy that someone finally saw her as more than just a body. Whatever the reason, those tears are always meaningful. They're never random. They're never without a story. When a man is fully present during intimacy, the experience transcends the physical and enters a realm that most people never access. Presence isn't about performance, technique, or saying the right things. It's about energy, focus, and awareness. A woman can feel the difference between a man who is simply going through the motions and a man who is completely attuned to her. His attention doesn't wander. His hands move with intention. His breath matches hers not because he's trying, but because he's listening, not just with his ears, but with his entire being. That kind of presence creates a space where her walls slowly melt, where she doesn't feel the need to protect or hide. She relaxes into the moment, not just because her body feels good, but because her spirit feels seen. When a man is present, a woman experiences more than pleasure. She experiences connection. It's not about dominance or control. It's about harmony, about being met emotionally, energetically, spiritually. In that space, time slows down. Her thoughts quiet. She stops evaluating herself. She stops wondering how she looks, if she's doing it right, or if she's pleasing him enough. Instead, she drops into her body, into the truth of the moment, because she senses that he's right there with her, not just beside her, but inside the experience with her. That level of connection can awaken emotions she didn't even know were hiding. It can bring her to tears without warning because something more than skin has been touched. Something buried deep within her emotional world is stirred, not by force, but by presence. This is what separates physical sex from soulful intimacy. It's not about what you do to her, it's about how you are with her. Presence tells her that she matters, that she's not being used or observed like a performance. It tells her that she's being invited to unfold, not evaluated or compared. In this kind of space, she's allowed to be messy, emotional, quiet, wild, or still. She's allowed to bring her full self into the experience without shame or fear. And when a woman feels that kind of permission, her response becomes more than arousal, it becomes emotional truth. That's why her tears can appear seemingly out of nowhere. They're not signals of confusion. They're signals of arrival, a feeling so deeply met that something within her breaks open and lets go. Too often, men rush through intimacy as if it's a task to complete or a victory to win. But presence doesn't chase climax. Presence listens. It pays attention. It adjusts without needing to be asked. It holds space without demanding anything in return. And when a woman senses this, she feels safe in a way that goes beyond logic. She may not be able to articulate what's happening, but her body knows. Her heart knows. She may cry, not because something went wrong, but because for once, something finally felt completely, undeniably right. Not strength. Most men enter intimacy with a mindset shaped by performance. How well they did, how long they lasted, whether they satisfied her physically. They're focused on technique, on results, on making an impression. But few men ever stop to consider the impact of their energy, their presence, and their awareness during those moments. The truth is, not strength. A woman remembers far less about what you did and far more about how you made her feel. She may forget the sequence of your touch, not strength, but she'll remember if she felt emotionally held. She may forget the words you whispered, but she'll remember the depth in your silence. And that's where the real power lies, not in performance, but in understanding the psychology behind connection. A man can go through every motion, say every right thing, and strength and still leave a woman feeling empty. Because performance is external, presence is internal. When you're thinking about how well you're doing, you're in your head. But when you drop into the moment, feel her energy, respond to her body, and notice her breath, you move from performing to connecting, not strength. That's when she stops being an object of desire and starts being a partner in an emotional exchange. That's when intimacy becomes a language, not a checklist. Many men assume that making her climax is the end goal, but what if the real goal is making her feel safe enough to surrender, not strength? What if the most powerful experience she could have is not just a physical release, but an emotional one? That only happens when a man understands that true connection is psychological. It's rooted in trust, in subtlety, in tuning in rather than trying to impress. Most men never learn this because no one teaches it. Culture trains them to chase visual appeal, to seek conquest, to prove their masculinity through sexual dominance. But dominance without awareness is empty. It leaves her body touched but her soul untouched. When a woman cries after sex, it's often because she was finally able to feel, fed, to release, to stop pretending. And that only happens when the environment you create invites her truth. Not strength. You don't have to understand every layer of her mind to make an impact. You just have to be there. Fully, patiently, without distraction. You have to treat her emotions as valid, not as interruptions. And you have to understand that her reaction is not always about you, but it is always a reflection of what the space between you allowed her to access. Men who master this level of connection are rare, not because it's impossible, but because it requires humility. It requires letting go of ego and embracing empathy, not strength. It requires listening without words, holding without restraint, being still without detaching. And when that kind of presence enters the room, the experience shifts. It becomes something she can't explain, but also can't forget. Not because it was the most exciting night of her life, but because it was the most emotionally real. Most men have been conditioned to focus on the physical body of a woman, her curves, her movements, her reactions, but very few take the time to understand the emotional language she speaks, especially during intimacy. The truth is, not strength. If you want to reach a woman in a way that leaves a lasting imprint, you have to learn to communicate with more than just touch. You have to feel her energy, read her silence, notice the shifts in her breath, and sense the unspoken messages behind her eyes. That's where real connection happens. Not in the surface level actions, but in the emotional undercurrent running beneath every moment. When a woman feels emotionally understood, her entire being opens. Her trust deepens. Her defenses fall without needing to be broken down. Understanding her emotional language means recognizing that her tears after sex might not be a sign of sadness, strength, but of something much deeper. She may be crying because her soul was finally acknowledged, because she felt seen in a way words could never express. Strength. She may be mourning old versions of herself that tolerated surface-level love. She may be healing in your arms without even knowing why. Not strength, and none of that is something you can access through skill alone. It takes presence, awareness, and the ability to hold emotional weight without trying to fix it or run from it. Most men hear emotion and think drama, complication, or confusion. But for a woman, emotion is clarity, it's truth, it's her inner compass. When she shares that with you, even when it's messy or overwhelming, it means she trusts you enough to bring her full self into the room. And if you can hold that space, if you can listen without trying to explain it away, you will reach a part of her that no one else ever has. That's when intimacy shifts from an act to an experience, not strength. That's when she cries not out of pain, but from the realization that she's finally safe, finally allowed to feel without shame. There's a difference between touching her body and you reaching her heart. One requires skill, the other requires understanding. And when a man develops that understanding, he becomes unforgettable. Not because of how he moved, but because of how he made her feel. Emotional intelligence during intimacy is a superpower. It turns every moment into a mirror for her truth. It creates a bond that words can't define and time can't erase. It allows her to unfold layer by layer, not because she has to, but because she wants to. Because she feels honored, not just desired. That kind of emotional connection leaves a mark. It lingers. It haunts in the best way possible, because it shows her that love, when given with depth and awareness, can be a sanctuary. And when a woman experiences that, not strength, Her tears aren't weakness. They're her body's way of saying thank you. They're evidence that you didn't just take from her, you gave something back. Something old, something rare, something that touches places inside her she doesn't let the world see.